Dr. Rahel Nardos, for your commitment to improving the health and life of women, particularly those in developing African countries, for your determination to find solutions to problems associated with devastating pelvic and bladder conditions, and for your outstanding devotion to medicine. Franklin and Marshall College bestows upon you the honorary degree Doctor of Science, honoris causa.
Dr. Nardos, you are the ideal commencement speaker for us this year, and we are so delighted to bring you back to demonstrate what you have done only 22 years out past your own graduation, the way you have simply waded into a world of hurt and made an enormous difference. Thank you for putting your learning and your science to such tremendously good use. By virtue of the authority vested in me by the Board of Trustees, I confer upon you the degree Doctor of Science, honoris causa, with all the rights and privileges pertaining thereto. In witness of this degree, I hand you this diploma. Many thanks for being with us, and I invite you to address the assembled audience. I present Dr. Nardos.
Wow. Oh, this has been a very long journey. Thank you so much for having me here. President Barbara Altman, Sue Washburn, Chair of Board of Trustees, the Board of Trustees, and the entire F&M community, especially members of the class of 2019 and their families. Thank you for this incredible honor. It's wonderful to be back at my first home in America. If you had asked me when I was a little girl growing up in Ethiopia that I would be standing here in front of you today as your commencement speaker, I would have said, yeah, right. Lam aleng basamay, watatwanim alay. Do you want me to translate that? I have a cow in the sky, but I cannot drink her milk. So I hope I can connect with you today through my stories, the way I connect to my patients through theirs. I was born in communist Ethiopia, the only girl in a family of 5 boys. My parents were both teachers, so they didn't have much even by Ethiopian standards, but they truly valued education. We lived in a community where food was rationed by the local government. Teenage boys disappeared suddenly from the streets as they got drafted into the military. And having your own running water and toilet was a luxury. We were one of the few families in our neighborhood who did have a water tank and a toilet, although this did not keep me from coming down with chronic gastrointestinal diseases as a child. Every time I got sick, my mom would wake one of my brothers, 5 o'clock in the morning, and ask them to go and stand in line at the local government hospital so that I have some hope of being seen by a doctor that day. My brothers tell me resentfully that people with more money will pay the guards at the hospital and be put in front of the line. So it will take half the day and sometimes all day to get in front of the line. So when I was a kid, I hated hospitals with a passion. They were dark, crowded, loud, smelled terrible, and felt like places where people went to get sicker or die. And no matter what my ailment, the doctors always prescribed 30 shots of penicillin on my butt. Not all in one day, thankfully, but still, I was skinny and it hurt. Despite my disdain for hospitals and my fear of doctors, here I am, a physician, not just any physician, but the type who spends a great deal of time traveling internationally to build medical capacity in hospitals just like the ones where I swore I'll never set foot in. I believe that these early life experiences, disguised as hardships, gave me my internal compass. They were responsible for making me who I am today, what I chose to care about, how I define success, and how hard I'm willing to work for it. What experiences shape your internal compass? What speaks to you at your core? Ask yourself these questions from time to time. The answer will be the source of your passion, your fulfillment, and your resilience in the face of obstacles. So what I've learned through the years is also that the direction that your life takes has as much to do with you as it does with who happened to be in your path, and more importantly, how you chose to engage with them. One day in middle school in Ethiopia, I was talking to my PE teacher, telling him I was worried about where I was gonna go for high school. My parents were teachers with 6 children and can't afford to pay much. He then told me that the international school in town, which is the most elite school in the country, offers scholarships to select students every year. And if you pass a competitive exam, you not only have a shot at joining, you may very well have a chance at higher education in the US. This was news to me and felt far-fetched at the time, sort of like, I have a cow in the sky moment. Suffice it to say that this casual conversation changed the course of my life. I got into the international school in Ethiopia, where I received first-class education. I also made my chemistry teacher, Ms. Shifarao, who told me about FNM and its commitment to welcoming international students. She had previously visited the campus and knew this would be a good place for me. FNM took a chance on me, a girl from Ethiopia with no financial resources but a lot of potential. True, Lancaster did not look anything like the America I portrayed in the Hollywood movies I grew up watching. I remember driving to Lancaster and seeing the horse-drawn cart, and I thought, oh my gosh, where am I? Nonetheless, once here, those incredible human bridges continue to appear in my path. From my friends who became a family away from home, thank you, Eddie, Kwesi, Abeku, who are here today, to the humble professor who thought I had what it takes to co-author a book with him, this opening a lot of doors for me down the line. Thank you, Dr. Michael Payne. To the generous woman, Meredith Rousseau, who gave me a home for several months after college graduation when I was struggling to get a job because of visa problems as an international student. And my very first boss after college, who saved my job for me when my visa did expire and I was at risk of deportation. So I guess my message for you is don't underestimate the power of the human bridges, and don't miss these powerful but fleeting opportunities to connect with those around you. Give them the opportunity to really see you. Put down your phones, literally. Look up and engage with those around you. These real-life human connections may very well change your life. As you advance in your career, which you will because you are an FNM graduate, be a human bridge yourself. You will find that elevating others is far more meaningful and impactful than most things that we define as success. So one thing you also learn, but always in hindsight, is that you can't really plan most things in life with any certainty. This is because the forces of change are constantly evolving, and you have to adapt and reinvent yourself. As an immigrant who constantly straddles two worlds and never quite fits in either, I have learned through the years to bend with the wind and not to take myself too seriously. Just ask my friends at FNM about my early transition into this American life. It wasn't pretty. I remember one night, my first year in college, my friend Eddie, who is here today, calls me on the phone and tells me that the next day, it's daylight savings. And so I need to push my clock back 1 hour. What? In what universe do we rewind time? Only God can change time. I know I'm constantly lost around campus and clueless about a lot of things, but come on. In Ethiopia, the sun always rises and sets at the same time, like it should. So nonetheless, I showed up in class the next day, and there were no students and no teachers for another hour. Mind you, this is on top of all the other ridiculous things I had to relearn, like some months have 28 days, and others have 30, and others have 31. In Ethiopia, every month has 30 days for 12 months, and the 13th month has 4 days, and every 4 years, leap year, you get a 5-day period. So my advice for you is to adapt the Ethiopian calendar, which, by the way, is 8 years behind, so you will be younger. But seriously, my advice to you is to learn to bend with the wind and be open to other worldviews. Take others' perspectives, put yourself in their shoes. You can do this and still stay rooted to your core values. Finally, I like to leave with the following message. Please know that you are here because you are privileged. And my big ask of you is to use your privilege as a force for greater good. Do something bigger than yourself. Our world needs this more than ever. We are living in an increasingly divisive world, and there is a lot of inequities around us. We're divided by race, by religion, by political views, really by everything that differentiates us. And these differences, instead of being celebrated and harnessed to unify us, they're being used to put more distance between us. And when we're divided, we miss precious opportunities to work together to address our most pressing needs. I'm worried because I'm speaking from personal experience. I've had a patient who refused to see me because I'm not a true American, and I've been told that I look too pretty to be an African American. I can't even tell you how many times I get confused for a nurse. These things do happen whether you choose to see them or not. Please choose to see them and be an agent of change. What gives me hope is places like Franklin and Marshall that see the power of global communities and choose to do their part to bridge these divides. What gives me hope is when I talk to my patients who had lived with terrible childbirth injuries in Ethiopia, or my patients in America who can't leave their homes because they can't control their bladder, is that all these people have the same vulnerability, the same suffering, and the same hope for cure. When I operate on them, they look exactly the same from the inside. I can't tell them apart. So my biggest hope of all this, however, is you. Congratulations, class of 2019.